we have to start with that. So, for those of you that are tuning in, I am here. I'm Scott Perry. I'm the publisher of the Solopreneur Success Stack and the guide in the Solopreneur Success Circle community. All of that happens here on Substack. I'm here with Solopreneur Success Circle member Anna. We're going to do kind of an over the shoulder. This is like actual coaching that's going to happen. This is all completely just happening by happenstance and mostly out of boredom on my part. Um, but Anna is Anna is a very interesting young lady, in part because of where she lives. So you live in Peru. You don't look like you're a native Peruvian, but I could
Right.
be wrong. I'm making assumptions, and correct me if I'm being politically incorrect. So tell me, why is it that you live in a weird part of Peru?
Okay, so just to give a little context, so I live in Iquitos, Peru, Iquitos with an I, which is in the Peruvian Amazon. It's the capital of the Peruvian Amazon, and people love to brag about it and say, well, it's the largest city in the world you cannot get to by car. So you have to get here by boat or by plane because this is the Amazon's territory, right? And I lived in Peru for 8 years, and I've lived in the Amazon for 5.5. I moved to Peru a long time ago, kind of with this like desire to have this international life and to have this cool adventurous experience and to live and do meaningful work. And I had a broader vision for my life itself. And then the Amazon to me is this fascinating combination of culture and sort of richness and also challenge and difficulty. And it seems to be the cross point where my best life has resided, is in this location. It's this weird, wild city that I live in, and all of the urgency and love of the region and the jungle and everything, and then the cultures here. I like it. It enriches my entire existence, and I'm just right in the middle of all of it. It just
Wow.
seems to be where I don't know. There's nowhere else I really want to be. I don't know. I don't know why I'm this way, but I seem to be. So this is kind of where we're at.
That is amazing because Peru and Argentina are two places I would love to visit. And we have someone that lives in Peru and someone that lives in Argentina in the community. So,
Yeah,
is there a place to get a decent cup of coffee there?
absolutely. There's great
Okay.
coffee here. There's great coffee.
Okay.
There's great chocolate. So we can, if you, yeah, when you and your wife want to come, we can get you great coffee. We'll take care of you. I mean, there's all
Coffee for
kinds of
me.
delicious things to taste. So yeah.
Coffee for me, chocolate definitely for my wife.
Okay.
That sounds good. Okay, we're gonna make a date. We'll talk about that another time. Well, it's great that you shared that at the beginning. So again, for Jenna and anybody else that's on now, and for anybody that's watching this in replay, I have this thing that I do because I have designed my business to fund and fit the lifestyle that I want to live. I have a lot of slack in my day to day. So my business is built around being able to be the primary daycare provider for my grandson. My wife and I both work online, and we take care of our grandson 5 days a week. He is currently at preschool. We have another grandchild coming this summer, so we're going to be doing double duty here pretty soon.
Exciting. Yeah.
Um, so, and we'll be talking about this more in upcoming events, but one of the things that I really work on in order to live the life that I want to live without having to make, really rigorous um, decisions around what I can and can't do financially. Uh, the whole goal is, can I fund the year that I want to live before the year is over. In fact, last year it was June that I actually funded the lifestyle I wanted to live for that year. I'm trying to beat that this year. All to say that when you really concentrate on creating a business that funds and fits your ideal lifestyle, you will find yourself with time on your hands. And when I have time on my hands, it is quite possible that I will get myself in all sorts of trouble. So I put out the word saying, "Hey, anybody want to jump on a live and talk about whatever you want to talk about?" Anna bravely raised her hand. And what we're going to do right here, right now, hello, David and Michi, is we're going to do real time coaching for Anna about the situation that she mentioned in our quick exchange in our chat. But so,
Mhm.
what I would love for you to do first, Anna, before we talk about what you're currently challenged by or navigating or needing help navigating, I would
Mhm.
like to know if you can articulate from, and we haven't prepared any of this, so it's going to be a little bit messy, but we're gonna get somewhere great. I'm quite confident. What is it precisely as you can be right now that you're trying to accomplish immediately? Another way to phrase this is, what is your most immediate priority right now?
Okay, the most immediate priority right now is to do income stabilization, to continue doing all the other great work that I'm doing that I haven't figured out. I haven't placed myself in an income situation yet. So how do I stabilize my life to keep doing the things to move forward closer and closer towards this way I want to live, this vision of my life, this adventure, and so forth. Um, that's the
Okay.
first thing.
So revenue stabilization is pretty common among solopreneurs. It's something
Kind
that
of
almost
always,
all of us are
yeah.
challenged by. Um, One of the ways that I believe, and again, I'm going to be sharing some assumptions, and I want you to correct me when I'm wrong. Um, but you do have kind of a steady day gig that is providing some revenue security. Is that correct?
That's right. So I've got like a part-time teaching job, and it's good. It's very stable. It's kind of not, it's not nowhere near my dream job, but it's at least providing a solid baseline. And that's all just in the online teaching world. And then I also have entered into another platform, which is I had this whole vision of it was going to be the supplemental thing that was going to kind of basically cover everything, and that's now going to take like a lot longer, from what I understand. Eventually, with really good income potential, but it's going to be a lot longer of a delay. Um, and so the other thing I'd love to talk to you about as well, Scott, is sort of the broader vision of what I want to do outside of just the income piece. But yeah, there's a couple of pieces going on at once.
So just a quick clarifying question on the day gig, the steady gig.
Yeah.
Um, is that do you have is it securing enough revenue to provide for your most essential immediate needs?
It is, but it's tight. It's
Okay.
tight, and it's about to become more like month to month, and it's still stable and will still cover me, but it's like kind of getting to be like, okay, I need to have something else in the meantime that's going to fill in at least just some of the gaps. Um, so we can talk about what that is or what would make sense for that, and that's kind of where my questions are
Okay,
too.
so this I'm asking all this because it's going to it's going to intersect with and have an impact on what we talk about in regard to the other thing. Um, can you just give me a general sense of, in terms of um, day to day, week to week, how much time on a daily or weekly basis does that require in order to keep that essential revenue coming in?
You mean the current part-time job, just the baseline thing? It's literally 2 hours of teaching in the
Oh,
mornings. That's it.
beautiful,
It's
beautiful.
been it's been that, which is amazing. Hmm.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's fantastic. So, like, one of the things that I just want to share for anybody that's tuning in is, one of the things that I actually come across quite frequently with the people that I work with is I hate my job and I want to. Whoops.
I'm here. Sorry,
Okay,
my
sorry.
internet just went out, but I think I'm still here.
Yeah,
Okay.
you are. So,
Okay.
sometimes the situation is, I really hate my job. I want to quit my job and I want to do this thing. And some people actually come to me and saying, I quit my job and I want to make this thing work. And
Right.
there's no and so like I'm a big believer in doing what you have to do to take care of your responsibilities and
Mhm.
optimizing that thing so that it gives you the most return on investment of your time, attention, and effort, and remuneration so that you can create slack to create other things. And it sounds like you're in a great situation because if you're only working a couple hours a day and that's helping cover your primary nut in terms of financial obligations, uh, you have a lot of slack. You have a lot of resources in terms of time, attention, and effort. You may not have the revenue right now, but you have the time, attention, and effort, and that is not a little thing. So you're already, I would say, well ahead in terms of clarifying and creating a path to the life that you want to be living. So you said that you want to talk about this. It's now time to talk about this. So what's the current vision for the lifestyle that you'd like to be living?
Okay, so I don't want to work that much. I want to have plenty of time to. What I really love doing is spending time in communities. I My heart lives inside the communities here. It lives inside many communities, but have been obsessed with getting all the way inside, in all the way inside these different groups, and like becoming a part of a local force for cultural identity promotion, being a part of sustainability actions that are actually from the people themselves versus from an external entity. And I think that's something that's really uncommon. Usually people in my position would be working for an NGO, might be working for tourism or for the government, but they wouldn't necessarily be inside. So I want plenty of time to be in that inside space. Um, but what I've wanted is actually to bring my unique skills and opportunities to that. So rather than just becoming a member of a local organization, which I have done and really had success with, I've been wanting to leverage what's unique about who I am and what I do. So anyway, just to answer your question, which I don't think I did, what is my ultimate goal? No. Yeah.
What Yeah, lifestyle vision. What's the
The lifestyle vision is to work just, I would say, a couple hours a day, maybe a couple hours a day, and to really utilize my unique skill set in the most efficient way possible to leverage arts and culture and sustainability projects here in the region.
and
Um,
do you want to be paid for that work that you're doing in the communities that you serve?
yeah. So, yeah. And just to kind of clarify a little bit, one of the things that the circle has really helped me with, and what I recommend it for other people to join as well, is to say, like, as a really polymathic person, I'm a scientist, I'm an artist, I'm an entrepreneur, I have a zillion interests. Can get really lost in what I could do, right? And I struggled with that for years. And one of the things the circle has helped me with is actually to change the question, and say, actually, it's not what could you do, Anna, because I could do any number of things, and I've done any number of things. Is what can only I do? And so that's one of my favorite reframes. And so I guess I'm at that point where what I want to do, I do really well, Scott, in the middle between two different. I live between cultures. I live between languages. I live between, and I love the crack. I'm in deep down inside this weird, interesting crack, and I don't know anyone else doing this work in this middle. So one of the things I realized is it would be helpful for me to serve in the middle as a bridge person between the world that I'm in right now that I love, and the world that I'm from, and all these Western partners and who want just to be part of it and support it, and who need an in between person. And so I'd love to be paid to be that person in the middle. That's the vision.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay. So, a couple of things to touch on. Uh, One of the things that you've shared that is really important, again, for anybody else that's listening, what I have found is the best way to create a sustainable and prosperous and fulfilling solopreneur business is to identify what is the thing that I am the best in the world at doing in the way that only I can do it.
Right.
Because if you achieve that, that's the definition of preeminence right now. Does that mean that you're the only person that's going to be in this liminal bridge space between cultures or what have you? Probably not. There's probably other people that are building things like this or wanting to do things like this. But
Mhm.
based on your personality, your talents, your preferences, your process and approach, like there's a unique Anna way of doing this that if you can position yourself based on all of that, then for a certain group of people, and it doesn't have to be many people, you become the one and only choice. Here's the challenge. Again, for anybody that's listening now or in replay, is what ends up happening is number one, it takes some time to figure that piece out, right? Like
Mhm.
I know I have this desire to do this kind of work, but I have to figure out by doing the work with some degree of frequency and some degree of intensity, what it is, what unique abilities, perspectives, and talents and so forth. What's the unique ability that I bring to this, and so that takes some time. What ends up happening is alongside of our pursuit of figuring out that differentiating value proposition based on who we are and what we're good at and where we belong is we also have to become digital marketers so that we can do some work to fund our, our continuing adventure. And what happens is people end up becoming full-time digital marketers and barely part-time practitioners of the work that they wanted to do in the first place, the difference that they wanted to make in the first place. So the goal, and we'll talk about this in a workshop coming up on Saturday, is to turn the great work that you do into the marketing, into the sales system that allows you to fund and what you're doing as you become preeminent at what you're doing. So the what I am hearing in your share is that you have some clarity of your purpose, like what you want to do and why you should be doing it and how it can be done and why you are the right person to do this. Um, but are you don't yet have a specific offer around
Right.
this. Okay.
Right.
So this is great. This is actually, this is an entire other discussion that we're going to have another time, and you're going to be a part of it because you're a member of the community. But
Mhm.
offer creation is like this whole other thing. And everybody does it wrong because you don't have to come up with the offer first in order to start doing the work. In fact, I would argue that it's better to start doing things and having
Mhm.
conversations with the people that you want to serve because they will tell you what they need, right? So the worst thing in the
Right.
world to do is to say, um, I have a solution. Now I need to find people with a problem that need this solution. And because that's not the way that people actually, most people are not even aware of the problem that they have. So when you say, hey, and when you approach it from the usual digital marketer of scarcity, urgency, features and benefits, bonus stacks, all that stuff, you're actually driving more people away. And maybe some of those people are actually people that would pay you to do something. The 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 secret for everyone, and this is something I know for a fact that you do very well, Anna, is to just show up with empathy for the people that you want to work with.
Mhm.
And
That's all I do. That's kind of all I
exactly,
do.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when it comes to, well, how do I get paid for this? That piece will come a little bit later, but it doesn't. It
Mhm.
comes comes a lot sooner than you think. So gonna just put that out there for now, and we'll talk about that more in other workshops and other conversations about like how to start thinking about that. But here's what I'm seeing so far. There's no immediate urgency around I have to raise a bunch of money right now just so I can stay alive. You have the means to take care of your most immediate financial obligations, working very little in terms
Yeah.
of hours, effort, attention, and so forth. Um, which means that you have this slack where you can start to think about strategically, think about how do I show up in the spaces, in the places, with and for the people I want to help, so that I can start to have those conversations, create the tight feedback loops, gather the data that will allow me to figure out not only how I can help them, but how I can get remunerated along the way. And don't hyper focus on the remuneration part too early, because it is entirely possible, and this is, well, again, we're going to talk about this in other situations, or other contexts, but it is quite possible that you can fund the lifestyle that you want and the work that you want to do completely outside of that work. In other words, you
Yeah.
don't have to charge the people that you're working with. And we have a member of the community that works with people that are in very dire um, situations regarding their personal safety, their mental, their psychological safety, and their financial security. That, and she funds that work entirely outside of that community. She gets to work with the people she wants to work with, but that work is funded through other things. And so um, there's several ways to think about that. Um, but what I guess the next question for you, Anna, is where are you now in terms of figuring out the the job description that you have for yourself and the offer, for lack of a better word, about how that gets presented to the people that you serve, but also the people that you get paid by?
Okay, great questions and helpful to clarify. I have two really big pieces of data, like big, like juicy pieces of data, right? So one of them was is I have just shown up a zillion times in these communities with the people I seek to serve, and I've gotten really clear on what is needed. And I think a big part of why I've been successful, really quite successful in what I've done, is I haven't shown up with one solution. I have just shown up and been present, and I've been like interested and engaged. And it's like I've got this huge amount of trust going into Ketos now. People know me, trust me, love me. There's a lot about that that's happened. And the thing that comes up an endless number of times is somebody who has leadership skills, somebody who can really lead a group, and in particular culturally here, like, and in many parts of the world, people do not have Western ways of working, Western ways of planning, Western ways of thinking, putting things together. And that's an area where I've been really useful, but really it's been just needing essential funding. Essential funding is one of the greatest things. And I did just managed an entire photo exhibition for Amazonian Carnival myself, with a huge success. It was this huge event. I was sad to miss the coaching circle for it, but I learned exactly how things work, what's needed, and the ways I can be the most useful. And a lot of it's about connecting two different countries together, and also having provided some leadership. So that was one piece of data that just happened. I just wrapped it up. The other big one happened last year, where I was hired by a local NGO to work as an interpreter for a group of Western donors. We actually went to several different Indigenous communities, and I was the person in the middle between the community and the donors, the community healthcare workers, the doctors. It was incredible direct experience. And they gave me credit for a positive donor outcome because of my presence. because I was there, they literally were like, your personality got us the money, Anna. Like, I got that feedback. And if you hadn't been there, it was way more, they literally said things to me like, you did way more than interpret, and that's, so those are the two kind of big things I'm using right now. As someone, my area of genius is connection. I'm really good at it. Like it's like, especially really different kinds of people coming together. So I'm kind of, that's kind of where I'm at in terms of like offering working with donors. I would love to get paid to connect people together.
Gotcha.
And I think that's kind of a unique proposition versus like trying to sell something. Like I don't.
Okay. I would encourage you to keep an open loop around that assertion that you just made,
Okay.
because fundamentally, anything that you sell, whether it's a product or a service, is feeding a need around identity and belonging.
Mm.
People will pay to
Okay.
feel connected. People will pay to be a part of something that they want to be a part of. People will pay for the affiliation or reputational boost that they get from being a supporter of, a participant in, or a recipient of anything that you just shared.
Ooh, that's
So,
great to hear. Yeah.
so here's a couple. I'm going to give you a couple of frameworks to think about. These are things we can talk about, more in a different conversation. But we're gonna hone in on something, on the most immediate constraint here in a second. But just again, because it's come up and because it might be helpful to other people. My friend Lucas Fisher has this great model for thinking about, like, how do you create a lifestyle business that actually allows you to have a life, as opposed to what solopreneurs usually do, which is grind 80 hours a week, and have no, doing work that they don't always love, like marketing and sales and so forth, and content creation, and with very little time, with very little life left over. You have, and this is the approach that I've been doing for the last couple of years. I just think Lucas did a better job of actually articulating it. There's like recurring income stuff, right? Like I um, Substack, for example, is a recurring income stream for me. It's not huge, but it's not nothing, and it's a growing enterprise. It will continue to, by all evidence, it will continue to bring in more and more recurring monthly annual revenue that I can count on. Um, there is uh, you, there are things like, well, just looking at some of the things that you talked about. So there's the like what, and right now your recurring revenue is coming from your job, right? There's nothing wrong with that. If you work 2 hours a day and it covers your complete
I would say,
financial nut.
well, it's like 75%. So I've got about 25% gap I'm like working on, which isn't
Well,
bad.
that's you're way
Yeah.
ahead of the
Yeah.
game. So that's a big piece. Like, how do I cover most of what I need, knowing with something that is reasonably certain, sure, right? Then the other piece that I'm hearing in what you just shared is, and then I have this project work, these things that I'm kind of hired as one-off opportunities to be an interpreter, or to host or curate or generate, an event, um, which is what I heard you do. And so like that, those projects can be a huge boon, can, fill in, oftentimes will fill in the gaps in the recurring thing, right? But here's the other thing, is those projects, and the other piece I'm going to bring up here in just a minute, that's leverage. because you created an asset when you did that, like Anna the interpreter, who also enhances the entire event that is bringing, you know, one group of people into connecting them and collaborating with another group of people, and you are the impresario, the curator of the experience, and so forth. Now that's like a reputational asset that you can continue to sell for more project work. And then the last thing to think about is, are there opportunities based on what you do, um, you know, for your recurring income or your project work that can be packaged into some sort of product, and that can be sold, you know, ad hoc, or be put into a funnel, or any of the things that, you know, digital marketers usually talk about, but something that provides you, and these things can all work together as well. So for instance, the way that I approach my business, my revenue needs is, okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to secure that recurring income, like, or retainer income is another way to think about it. Like, can I pick up a couple of big, you know, big clients that are going to pay me a larger amount for a high level of access that doesn't take away all of my time, my working time, but provides me with my financial needs for, I go on an annual basis. You could also do it just in terms of funding priorities. So I do that first. Then I look at, and the Substack is kind of a part of that because it's recurring revenue. Then it's project work. So, like for instance, last year, Seth Godin called me and said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. I could use the skill that you have to do this piece of it. It's a 3-month gig. It pays this much. Are you interested?" Well, that was like 1/6 of my entire revenue need for the year. So heck yeah, a couple hours a day
Mhm.
for a limited amount of time that provides for a significant portion of my revenue year need for the year. And then through the Substack community that you're a part of, that's supplying in part some recurring income, there are these things that, like the one that we're going to host, I'm hosting this weekend, on the whole marketing process that I use, that
Mhm.
takes very little time to completely fund and create the pipeline of clients that I need. That will be done, that will be packaged as a product that becomes an asset for members of the community, or as a product for sale for people that aren't a member of the community that just want that particular thing. So for all of these things kind of work together, and they're all leveraging my reputational asset, my connection asset, my experience and talent and unique ability asset, and they all kind of work together. But it all comes down to strategically think about how all these things can be created with the least amount of effort, with the least amount of time, uh, and the greatest amount of velocity and ease, so that you, because my goal is always, how do I create that slack in my life that allows me to do things I want to do, but also to take advantage of opportunities that I never would have thought of, right? So like, you took an interpretation gig because it was going to provide a little remuneration, immediate remuneration, but not never guessing or thinking that it would also give you like this whole other possible income stream. And since you have that, how do you, instead of trying to figure out what do I do next, how do you take this thing that you just did and leverage it to do it again with the same people, for a different group of people, etc., so that you can continue to bring in the revenue that allows you to continue to do the things that you want to do, again, with the greatest ease and velocity. Greatest ease meaning least amount of effort, least amount of time, least amount of risk, and the most amount of satisfaction, fulfillment, joy, etc. Um, Okay, so that was a little bit of a riff rant, but just to just to quickly review, when you are thinking about how do you piece together a eh, your your endeavor, your work, so that it funds and fits your lifestyle, you can think about all of these pieces. What's the recurring or retainer piece? What's the project-based piece? What's the product-based piece? And how do these things, can they be integrated so that people can, move in and out of any of them, or they can all be, one can be used to feed another or vice versa. So, um, what I want to end with, Anna, is given everything that we've talked about, so you have a clear vision for the life that you want to be living. You have um, done a great job of covering the nut so that you have the time and other assets, resources to pursue doing more of the work that you actually want to do, and not have to continue to do more of the work that you don't want to do. What's the most immediate constraint right now?
I think I still have like there's parts of it I think I still just feel a little bit unclear about. Like I don't think I have my so okay. The idea being me kind of creating me a little more of a map for myself of each of the steps of the process. I think I tend to get a little like bogged down, and so I think maybe very specifically defining the next set of things, I still feel like a little bit foggy. I understand conceptually what you mean, but I think I'm needing a little more like drilling down, um, and really covering the 25% of my income that needs to be covered is just it feels like the first thing I have to do in order to even to move forward. It's not crazy, and it's wonderfully kind of a sane problem to have. But I think that may be the very actually I think it's probably the first thing.
Okay,
It's just covering that
perfect.
gap. Uh huh.
So quick reflection, and then some things to think about in terms of identifying and doing the next right thing. Um, in the kind of pursuit that you're in, there is no map. So I would just encourage you to let go of the map, because it's
There's no
not,
map.
it doesn't
It's,
exist. And this
no.
is why digital marketers and gurus stay in business, is because we all would love the certainty of a map. And someone says, well, I have the map. Actually, Anna, what you need is an Instagram strategy. It will solve all your problems. It solved a problem for someone else in the past.
Right.
Problem is, you're not them, and it's not the past.
No.
So, and the fact that it worked in the past means it actually works a lot less effectively and efficiently right now. That's just the nature of any digital marketer solution. Is by the time you are purchasing it, the law of diminishing returns is in full force, and you will have to work a lot harder and spend a lot more time to get a much lesser result. So, if there is no such thing as a map, and there is no such thing as a map because nobody has lived your life,
No.
and you have not existed before, so what you need is a compass. So here's the compass that I encourage you to start building. You have you're in a great position. 75% of the income that you must raise is more or less guaranteed.
Yeah.
For the time being, you need to cover this 25%. As you start looking at some of the things that we talked about, like, okay, well, what's a retainer or a recurring income source that I could build? What's a project that I could start shopping around or looking for, or a product? And I would look at them in that order. The highest leverage, biggest payoff is probably going to come from some sort of retainer or recurring income source, followed closely by some sort of project-based thing. Products and all that generally are packaged versions of things that you've done as retainer or um, projects that kind of just can sell in the background. So as you're thinking, what I would encourage you to do is look at all the things that you've talked to me about and all the things that you've shared and all the assets that you've already created. The best thing that you can do is try to do something that worked in the past again. Trying
Mhm.
to create a brand new thing that you can then put out into the world. Again, are you going to create a solution for a problem? That's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, might take a little bit of money, and it's going to be very difficult to sell. But if you look in the rearview mirror and say, I just did this thing and it worked really well, and I bet there's other people that need this kind of thing. How do I go about finding them? How do I go about positioning myself as a viable choice? And how do I show up where they are with empathy, kindness, consideration, generosity, and demonstrate that I am the best solution for this problem? And they're going to pay a lot, plenty, but they're going to get way more than they're paying for, right? So
And
the comp
and just to interrupt you really quick, that's the feedback I continue to get. Is the way that I do things is unique. My life is unique. My whole situation is unique. The way I'm in the world is unique, and it is very attractive to people. And as I kind of, I think it's that it's taking that and then turning that into something that I can
well,
or
what you need to the thing there is that yes, so then now we're kind of getting into the diffusion of innovation idea, which is people are always really intrigued by interesting novel things, but they don't normally buy them because it's innovative. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of risk associated with, I've never seen it done this way before. I've never considered this approach before. But what you can do is turn what you do and how you do it and into information. Like if people can see you doing the work and getting the result, then this is how Tesla sells cars. Like who wants to buy a car that drives itself? Nobody. But if you start to see them on the road and you start to talk to people that and I don't want to get into any politics around any of this. Just an example that leaps to mind. Um, uh, when you start to observe people driving them or purchasing them and seeing them on the road, when you see the relative value in terms of the money saved on gas and maintenance and so forth, never mind all the time saved on I'm going to pay it, the effort of paying attention to the road and so forth. When it aligns with your values, if it aligns with your values, like it becomes information, and more and more people will purchase that innovative thing because the relative value has been demonstrated. They've observed people that are doing it, so it's not this unknown thing. It aligns with who they are and what they believe. Like all these, the 5 adoption decisions kind of come into play. So that's and again, because you you have time, like you don't have revenue right now, but you have plenty of time. How do you strategically put yourself in places where people are looking for the kind of with the kind of problem that you have a solution for, are looking for a person that
Mhm.
provides the value, aligns with their values, um, and so forth, right? So that's the compass. And so the compass essentially becomes, does this opportunity, does this thing that I'm thinking about doing help me get closer to what I want in terms
Mhm.
of the lifestyle that I want to live? If the answer is yes, then it's about optimizing the time, effort, and attention and money, if there is any, invested in that to get it started. And once it gets started, and continuing to optimize it so that it gets increasingly better results with a with less time, with less effort, with less attention, and with less money. And the thing about an asset is you continue to turn that asset ratchet until it stops working. And then if it stops working, you figure out if there's a way to get it to keep working, and you keep cranking it. You keep cranking it until it absolutely is proven to be depleted and no longer viable. Then you can start to think about other things. But you will get a much bigger return on the investment of your time, attention, and effort by continuing to optimize things that have already been proven to work than you
Yeah.
will in building a new thing. Like, you don't need to build a new service, a new product, a new um, a, a, a new resource for the marketplace. You need to leverage the things that you've already done to get it in front of more of the right people, to do what you just did with the same people or more people like them. And that's a whole different way of thinking. And that is based, again, on one of your biggest assets, which is empathy. I understand the problem. I have I have solved this problem in the past. I'm confident that I can solve it for you, and I'm confident that whatever you are charged will be returned many times over in the results that we get by working together. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I really appreciate the language around empathy. I think that it's naming something that I hadn't named in that way. So
Well,
that's really helpful.
and it's
Yeah.
empathy is not just a buzzword. Like, this is the primary thing I learned from Seth Godin when I was in not just a student in the marketing seminar, but when I was a coach there. Like, it ultimately all comes down, it really does. If you're going to build a sustainable, prosperous, fulfilling business, it actually does come to um, the the ability to um, to be empathetic and to leverage empathy in a way that is kind, generous, in service. Because there's also, digital marketers leverage empathy too, but they don't do it in the ways that you and I would feel comfortable doing most of the time, right? So empathy can be weaponized. All the more reason why people that are actually good players should be demonstrating that. Chris Voss calls it tactical empathy. I sometimes call it empathetic antagonism. Like, yes, I understand, I know, I've seen this before, I can help you, but I'm also going to get under your skin so that we actually do something, as opposed
Yes.
to, because otherwise empathy simply becomes sympathy, which is, oh, I get it, poor baby. Or you become, just a cheerleader, or someone
And then
that's just,
nothing.
right, people work
Mhm.
with you because you're so damn likable, right? But nothing actually happens. And so um it's the most important piece. And again, it's an asset you already have. It's a resource you already have available. So that's your compass. How do I increase the efficiency of the empathetic employment of my unique perspective, my unique set of skills, my unique experience, so that the next person gets an even better result for in less time with less effort. But people will pay for that.
Yeah. Oh, that gives me a lot to think about. It's really generous. It's funny. One of the things I spent a long time doing last year, and I don't know why I needed to do this, but I really did, was to figure out how I would like to look at the people around me where I lived, other foreigners living here, and what their deals were. And like I was like, am I like this? No. Am I like this? Am I do I have this religious connection? No. Do I work for the government? No. Am I in tourism? No. Do I have an NGO? I also don't. And it puts me in a category of one. And it was very helpful to sort of distill it down. Even amongst other people here who could be my competition, they're really not. They're not my
Well,
competition. And
exactly, because you have
no,
to find your edge. What's the unique way what's the differentiating value proposition based on who you are, what you're good at, and where you belong, your unique perspective, experience, and so forth. I'll wrap up with just another example for folks that are tuning in. One of the things that happened when I was working at as a coach at Akimbo was that because people were paying attention to what was going on at Akimbo, they would reach out to me as, "Hey, we see what you're doing in terms of building online community during the pandemic. This was a really important thing," or um, boosting their position around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they would say, is that something you can help me with or help us with? Like these were mostly organizations and corporations. And I would say, sure. One of the things that I rubbed up against was once I said that I might be a viable choice to help them solve the problem that they actually came to me already having, was that they would then say, well, now, fantastic, we would love to work with you. Send us all your credentials. Meaning they wanted me to have, um, some sort of certifications, whether those were coaching certifications or skills certifications and so forth. Um, and my response was, I don't have any certifications. My certification is you reached out to me. I do this work all the time, every day for someone that you recognize, and if I've earned their trust because I get results. And if
Yeah.
that's not good enough, then what I think we have is a conversation about you looking for deniability. You want to look like you're trying to become a better player as a employer needing to move, employees into virtual spaces. You want to appear to be improving your position around diversity, equity, and inclusion, but what you want is deniability. We hired this guy, he has some credentials, it didn't work, it's not our fault because we hired this. And I would say that's not the way I play. Let's get, to quote our friend Seth Godin, let's get real or let's not play. Like
Right, right.
if you want to do this work,
Hmm.
I have a proven track record of helping people do this, but only with people that are actually willing to do the work, to make change, to change themselves and the way that they do things. And if you want to do that, here's what it costs. Let's go. And if you don't want to do that, find some other schmuck that wants to, with a lot of initials after their name, that you can hire, fail to succeed with, and then
Ignore.
blame
Yeah.
them for the fact that it
Right.
didn't work. So, and so,
Hmm.
but that's like, again, empathetic antagonism is one of my edges. Like I'm not going to say the things that you want to hear because although I love to be a nice guy, it's not the most effective way of making meaningful change for the better happen. The kinder thing for me to do is to say, let's look at what's really going on here and let's decide if we are willing to make the change necessary in the way that we think and the way that we do things that will help us move toward the goal that you say you want to achieve. And even when, so obviously, I didn't get a lot of jobs because whether they wanted to admit it or not, they were looking for deniability.
Right.
They wanted to appear that they were doing meaningful things and not have to do them. But um, for the people that in either case, whether they hired me or not, they now knew what was really going on. It was a clarification exercise for them, and whatever they did after that was up to them. But um, that's a huge value. Like one of the things that happens when I'm onboarding clients is we talked about this. Like let's look at what money is coming in and where it's all going, and measure that against the return on investment towards your priorities. If you're doing a bunch of things that are not moving the needle towards achieving your priority is not actually your priority. If you're unwilling to change your behavior around raising revenue and spending revenue to actually get closer to what you want is not actually what you want. What you want is what you like. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. If you want to stay where you are, just keep doing what you're doing. Because if you want to get to where you want to be, what got you here won't get you there. And so, those kind of conversations become my differentiating value proposition. And so, similarly, just as sharing that as an example for you and everybody else, like you have to, like, not only is empathy your biggest asset, but who you are is your biggest asset. And here's the thing about empathy, it's tied to this whole idea of knowing yourself. Self-awareness is, you can't actually practice empathy toward other people fully if you don't have self-awareness and empathy for yourself. So the more time, the any time spent in getting clearer about who you really are, what you're really good at, where you really belong, and who you seek to become is going to pay off much bigger dividends in the future than any tactical or strategic program that are involved in to try to just increase velocity towards a goal. So that's a lot. So I think we've done some good work here, Anna.
Yeah, Scott, you're so generous, and you are also a role model in terms of empathy. So I wanted to mention that.
Well, I appreciate that. I do my best. I try. All right. Well, I will look forward to seeing you on an upcoming community call. And yeah, feel free to share this with anybody in your network that would benefit from getting some different perspective on how they can figure out where they want to get to and how they can get there.
The compass, yes. Get some
All right.
compassing. All right.
Good to see you,
Thanks,
Anna.
Scott.
Take care.
Bye. Good to see you.